I thought I had the perfect marriage. 8 years with Amanda, building what I believed was a life of mutual trust and respect. As an electrical engineer, I worked long hours to provide for us, while she built her career in pharmaceutical sales. We had our routines, including her monthly wine nights with friends at our home. That was until I overheard words that shattered everything. "Derek is too stupid to realize I have been cheating for years." My wife slurred drunkenly as her friends roared with laughter. I froze in the hallway, my world collapsing around me. Before I tell you how I turned my greatest humiliation into the most satisfying moment of my life, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to rebuild yourself after betrayal. I grew up in Millfield, Ohio, a small town where everyone knew your business before you did. My parents raised me with strong values of hard work and honesty. Dad worked at the local manufacturing plant for 30 years and Mom taught elementary school. They sacrificed to put me through college, where I studied electrical engineering. After graduation, I landed a job at Precision Systems, a company specializing in industrial electrical solutions. The work was challenging, but fulfilling. I spent 6 years building my career, saving for a house, and establishing myself before even thinking about serious relationships. Then came the 4th of July barbecue at my buddy Steve's house. That was where I met Amanda. She walked in wearing a sundress that caught the late afternoon light, her confident smile, immediately drawing attention from everyone in the backyard. Steve introduced us, mentioning that Amanda had recently moved to town for her job as a pharmaceutical sales representative. "Derek is the smartest guy I know," Steve told her. "He can fix anything with wires." Amanda laughed, the sound musical and genuine. "I can barely change a light bulb," she replied, her eyes meeting mine. "Maybe you could teach me sometime." That evening we talked for hours. She was charismatic and attentive, asking thoughtful questions about my work and life. By the time fireworks lit up the sky, I was completely captivated. Our relationship moved quickly. Amanda was unlike anyone I had dated before, spontaneous and affectionate. 3 months in, she suggested we move in together. 6 months later, I proposed on a weekend trip to Lake Erie, and she immediately said yes. We had a small wedding at a local vineyard, surrounded by close friends and family. Amanda glowed as she walked down the aisle, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. My parents beamed with pride, immediately welcoming Amanda into our family. After the honeymoon, we settled into married life in the 3-bedroom house I had purchased in a quiet suburb. I continued putting in long hours at Precision Systems, often taking on additional projects that required evening work. Amanda seemed supportive, bringing me dinner at the office during particularly late nights, and never complaining about my schedule. Her own career was thriving. She frequently traveled for sales conferences and meetings with doctors, sometimes staying overnight in neighboring cities. I was proud of her success, and never questioned her schedule or whereabouts. Trust was the foundation of our relationship, or so I believed. 3 years into our marriage, Amanda started hosting monthly wine nights with her closest friends Jessica, Taylor, Madison, and Kimberly. They were an attractive, successful group of women who worked in similar fields. The gatherings quickly became a tradition, happening the first Friday of every month. "You should make yourself scarce during girls' night," Amanda suggested after the second gathering. "We talk about things that would bore you to tears." I was happy to comply, usually retreating to my basement workshop, where I tinkered with electronics projects. It seemed like a healthy arrangement, giving Amanda space for her friendships while I enjoyed my hobbies. Looking back, there were warning signs I chose to ignore. Sometimes Amanda would return from business trips with unexplained expenses on our credit card. Occasionally, I would walk into a room, and she would quickly end a phone call. There were nights when she claimed to be working late, but her office building was dark when I drove by after picking up takeout. Each time doubt crept in, I pushed it away. I trusted Amanda completely. I believed in our marriage, and could not imagine she would betray that trust. I chalked up my concerns to insecurity or misunderstanding, never allowing myself to follow the threads that might unravel the tapestry of our life together. There were also subtle changes in our relationship. Physical intimacy became less frequent, with Amanda often claiming exhaustion from work. When we did connect, it felt mechanical, lacking the passion from our early days. Again, I attributed this to the natural evolution of a long-term relationship, and the demands of our busy careers. In our 6th year of marriage, I received a promotion that required even longer hours temporarily as I established myself in the new role. Amanda seemed supportive on the surface, but made more comments about feeling neglected. I compensated by working harder to provide financial security, buying her thoughtful gifts, and planning occasional weekend getaways when my schedule allowed. The irony was not lost on me later. I was working longer hours to build our future, while she was using that time to betray our vows. But that realization was still to come. The week before everything changed, Amanda had been particularly affectionate, bringing me coffee in the morning and texting throughout the day. We even had a date night where she seemed fully present and engaged. I remember thinking that we were entering a new, stronger phase of our marriage. How completely devastatingly wrong I was. The night that changed everything was a typical first Friday in October. Amanda's friends arrived around 7, bringing bottles of wine and snacks. I greeted them politely before retreating to my basement workshop, where I was rebuilding a vintage amplifier. By 10 o'clock, I could hear their laughter growing louder upstairs as the wine flowed freely. I decided to grab a snack and a beer from the kitchen. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard my name amid the laughter and instinctively paused in the hallway just out of sight of the dining room where they were gathered. "Derek is so clueless," Amanda was saying, her words slightly slurred. "He actually thanked me for being understanding about his late nights at work. As if I care. It gives me more time with Robert." The women laughed, and someone, I think it was Jessica, asked, "Does he suspect anything at all?" Amanda snorted derisively. "Are you kidding? Derek is too stupid to realize I have been cheating for years. He still believes I go to all those sales conferences." Meanwhile, Robert and I are at the Lakeside Hotel, making our own sales pitches. Their laughter felt like physical blows. I stood frozen, unable to move or breathe properly. "How long has it been going on now?" Taylor asked, her voice curious rather than judgmental. 3 years, Amanda replied casually, as if discussing a hobby. "Remember when I said I had that regional meeting in Cleveland? That was our first weekend together. Robert is, well, he knows how to keep things exciting." "And Derek has no clue," Madison pressed. "None. He is so trusting, it is almost sad," Amanda continued. "Last month I told him I was buying a new laptop for work, but I actually used the money to get Robert a vintage watch for his birthday. $2,000 from our joint account, and Derek never even checked the statement. I felt physically ill. $2,000, I remembered that conversation clearly. I had been saving for months to purchase specialized equipment for my workshop, but had agreed the laptop was a priority for her career. "Are you ever afraid he will find out?" Kimberly asked. "Sometimes," Amanda admitted. "But Derek lives in his own world of circuits and wires. As long as I am home for dinner most nights and throw him some attention occasionally, he is perfectly content." "Men like Derek are useful but boring," Jessica commented. And I recognized her voice clearly now. "You deserve some excitement, Amanda." "Are you ever going to leave him for?" Robert Taylor asked. There was a brief pause before Amanda replied, "Why would I? He pays the bills while I have my fun. Robert is exciting, but he is not exactly reliable husband material. Besides, he is married too." Another round of laughter. I heard glasses clinking in a toast. "To having it all," Amanda declared. "The stable husband at home, and the excitement on the side." "To having it all," her friends echoed. I backed away silently, descending the stairs to my workshop on unsteady legs. My hands trembled as I sat heavily on my work stool. The amplifier parts lay scattered on the table, forgotten. 3 years. She had been cheating for 3 years, almost half our marriage. The revelation crawled through me like poison, rewriting every memory, every moment I had treasured. The unexplained overnight trips, the mysterious phone calls, the decreased intimacy, the times she was too tired for connection. All of it now made perfect, horrible sense. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and opened our banking app. There it was, the $2,000 withdrawal labeled computer purchase. I scrolled further back and found other large withdrawals that I had never questioned. $600 for car repairs, $1,200 for a dental procedure, not covered by insurance. All lies. Moving to our shared cloud storage, I found folders I rarely accessed. Inside one labeled work presentations were dozens of photos that had nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. Amanda, and a tall, dark-haired man I had never seen. Romantic dinners, hotel rooms, intimate poses. The timestamps showed a relationship spanning years. My stomach heaved and I barely made it to the utility sink before emptying its contents. The betrayal was complete and documented in painful detail. I sat in the dim light of my workshop for hours, the sounds of laughter and conversation, eventually dying down upstairs as her friends departed. I heard Amanda cleaning up then, the shower running, then silence, as she went to bed completely unaware that our marriage had just imploded. I slept fitfully on the workshop couch that night, my mind replaying her words and cruel laughter on endless loop. By morning, anger had replaced shock, and beneath the anger was a steely resolve. I would not let this define me. I would not let her see me broken. When Amanda came downstairs the next morning, visibly hungover, but functioning, I pretended everything was normal. I kissed her goodbye as she left for work, my skin crawling at the contact. She noticed nothing amiss in my behavior, proof of how little attention she actually paid to my emotional state. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my office explaining that I needed a personal day. The second was to a divorce attorney whose billboard I passed every day on my commute. By 9 a.m., I had an emergency appointment scheduled for 11. For the next 3 weeks, I lived a double life. On the surface, I was the same trusting, hardworking husband Amanda had always known. I maintained our routines, engaged in normal conversations over dinner, and even watched our usual Thursday night shows together. Behind this facade, however, I was methodically planning my exit from our marriage and gathering irrefutable evidence of her betrayal. The morning after that devastating wine night, I met with Patricia Hernandez, a sharp-eyed divorce attorney with 20 years of experience. Her office was warm but professional, with degrees and certifications covering one wall and family photos on her desk. "I need to understand my options," I explained, still feeling numb as I recounted what I had overheard and discovered. Patricia listened without interruption, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she looked at me with genuine sympathy but also determination. "California is a no-fault divorce state," she explained. "That means her infidelity will not impact the division of assets in a legal sense." However, she continued, holding up a finger. "The financial misconduct is different. Those unauthorized withdrawals for her affair partner constitute dissipation of marital assets that we can use." She laid out a strategy: gather comprehensive evidence before confrontation, document the affairs and financial misconduct, secure my personal finances and important papers, prepare for all possible reactions from Amanda. "Once you confront her, everything changes," Patricia warned. "Be completely prepared before that moment." Following her advice, I hired Michael Reeves, a private investigator with law enforcement background. His services were expensive but crucial. While I was at work, Michael tracked Amanda's movements, photographing her meetings with not just Robert, but, as I would soon discover, 2 other men as well. "Your wife meets regularly with this man at the Lakeside Hotel," Michael explained, showing me photos of Amanda kissing a tall executive type who I assumed was Robert. "And twice during our surveillance, she met this younger man at an apartment downtown. He displayed images of Amanda with a man who looked to be in his late 20s, entering a modern apartment building. There is also a third man, less frequent. They meet for lunch primarily." Each revelation was a fresh wound, but I remained focused on the strategy. Emotion could come later. For now, I needed clarity and evidence. At home, I installed small security cameras in common areas, carefully hidden and accessible only through my private account. I discovered Amanda frequently brought Robert to our house when I worked late, sometimes even using our bed. I methodically documented every financial discrepancy I could find, creating spreadsheets of unexplained withdrawals and charges that coincided with her meetings with these men. The total over 3 years exceeded $30,000 from our joint accounts. Meanwhile, I began quietly preparing for my new life. I rented a furnished apartment across town, paying 3 months in advance. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and began transferring my legitimate personal funds. I gathered important documents, irreplaceable photos and family heirlooms, storing them in a safe deposit box. I met weekly with a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma, working through my emotional response in private so I could maintain my calm facade at home. You are handling this with remarkable composure, Dr. Winters commented during our third session. I save my breakdowns for your office, I replied with a grim smile. At home, I need to be strategic. By the end of 3 weeks, I had all the evidence I needed and had secured my essential possessions. The final preparation involved consulting with a locksmith who agreed to change the locks on a specific date. I chose a Thursday, when Amanda had texted that she would be attending an overnight sales conference in San Diego. Michael had already confirmed she would actually be at the Lakeside Hotel with Robert. That Thursday morning, I kissed Amanda goodbye as usual. Have a productive conference, I said, maintaining eye contact. I will call you tomorrow, she promised, not showing a flicker of guilt. As soon as she left, I sprang into action. The locksmith arrived at 9, changing every external lock. I spent the day preparing the house, printing dozens of photographs of her with her various affair partners, and placing them strategically throughout the rooms. On the dining room table, I arranged financial records highlighting each unauthorized withdrawal, with the total amount prominently displayed. In our bedroom, I placed photos of her bringing Robert into our home, time-stamped during my late work nights. In the kitchen, I left credit card statements, showing restaurant charges for dates with her affair partners. My final touch was on the dining room table, divorce papers, prepared by Patricia, with a post-it note indicating where to sign, and Amanda's wedding ring placed on top. Beside these, I left a single handwritten note. I am not as stupid as you think. Goodbye, Amanda. By 6 that evening, everything was in place. I took one last look around what had been our home before activating the security cameras and driving to my new apartment. From there, I would watch her reaction remotely, giving myself the advantage of distance from her inevitable attempts at manipulation. I ordered pizza, opened a beer, and waited for the show to begin. Amanda arrived home around 10 that night, much earlier than I had expected for her supposed overnight conference. Through the security camera feed on my laptop, I watched her struggle with her key at the front door, then try repeatedly before pulling out her phone. Moments later, my phone rang. I silenced it and continued watching. She tried the back door next, then peered through windows before returning to her car. 30 minutes later, she returned with a locksmith of her own, who eventually gained her entry after she showed identification proving she lived there. The cameras captured her confusion as she entered, calling my name through the empty house. Then she saw the first set of photos in the hallway. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she staggered slightly before continuing to the dining room where the main display awaited. I watched her face transform as she took in the evidence laid out before her. Shock, then panic, then the beginning of tears as she picked up the divorce papers with trembling hands. She sank into a chair, frantically calling my number again and again. After 15 unanswered calls, she began texting. Please talk to me. I can explain everything. It is not what it looks like. We need to talk face to face. I did not respond. Around midnight, she called Jessica, one of her wine night friends. The camera's microphone picked up her side of the conversation. He knows everything. No, I mean everything. Photos, bank statements, all of it. I do not know where he is. What am I going to do? She spent the night pacing, calling, and eventually drinking directly from a wine bottle. By morning, she had worked herself into a state of desperate determination. She began searching the house, presumably looking for clues to my whereabouts. Around noon the next day, my phone rang with Patricia's number. Your wife is here at my office, she informed me. She is quite agitated and demanding to know where you are. You can tell her I will communicate only through you from now on, I replied. I already have, Patricia assured me. She did not take it well. She also claims the photos and financial records are misleading and can be explained. I laughed without humor. I bet she does. That evening, the building manager called to inform me that a woman claiming to be my wife was in the lobby insisting on seeing me. I had anticipated this and already informed him of the situation. Send her up, I said, but please have security on standby. Minutes later, there was frantic knocking at my door. Through the peephole, I could see Amanda, her makeup smeared from crying, hair disheveled from running her hands through it repeatedly. I pressed the intercom button beside the door. Yes, Derek. she cried, pressing her hands against the door. "Please let me in. We need to talk about this." "There is nothing to talk about," I replied calmly. "You do not understand. What you heard at the wine night, we were just joking around. It was stupid drunk talk." I pressed another button on my phone, activating the audio recording from that night. Her voice filled the hallway. "Derek is too stupid to realize I have been cheating for years." She gasped, then began sobbing. "Please, I was drunk. I did not mean any of it. The $30,000 from our accounts, the men in our bed when I worked late, the 3-year affair with Robert, were those jokes too." Her tactics shifted instantly. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But I love you. We can go to counseling, fix this. There is nothing to fix, Amanda. Please speak to my attorney from now on." Her crying stopped abruptly, replaced by cold anger. "You will not get away with this. I get half of everything. The house, your savings, even part of your business assets. That is the law." "Actually," I replied, "financial misconduct changes things significantly. The judge will be very interested in how you spent our joint funds on your affairs. Patricia can explain the details." She pounded on the door one last time. This is not over, but it was. I maintained complete silence from that point forward, communicating only through Patricia. Amanda tried everything. Tearful voicemails, angry threats, mutual friends as intermediaries, even a handwritten letter, claiming she had been suffering from depression that drove her behavior. I remained resolute in my silence, focusing instead on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, joined a gym, reconnected with old friends who had drifted away during my marriage, and continued weekly sessions with Dr. Winters. The divorce proceedings lasted 4 months. Amanda fought viciously for half of everything, claiming the affairs were irrelevant to asset division. Her case crumbled when Patricia presented evidence of the financial misconduct, including receipts for gifts purchased for her affair partners, using our joint funds and hotel rooms booked on our shared credit cards. The judge was particularly unimpressed by evidence that Amanda had been planning to leave me once she had secured more of our assets, revealed in text messages to Robert. "Just a few more months of playing the dutiful wife, and we will have enough to start over together." In the end, Amanda received significantly less than the standard 50% of marital assets. She kept her car, her personal possessions, and a modest settlement that reflected her actual contributions to our finances, minus the documented funds she had diverted to her affairs. More satisfying than the financial outcome was watching her support system collapse. Her wine night friends scattered once the divorce became messy, unwilling to be associated with her behavior or potentially called as witnesses. Robert disappeared entirely once Amanda no longer had access to our joint accounts, and her legal troubles became complicated. 6 months after that fateful wine night, I was living in a comfortable new condo closer to my office. I had been promoted again at work, partly due to the increased focus and time I devoted to projects without the distraction of a failing marriage at home. I had developed new hobbies, joining a local hiking group and taking cooking classes. My parents, initially devastated by the collapse of my marriage but supportive throughout, noted that I seemed more relaxed and genuine than I had in years. At one of the cooking classes, I met Ellie, an illustrator of children's books with a quick laugh and thoughtful nature. Unlike Amanda, she asked questions and actually listened to the answers. Our friendship developed naturally, over several weeks, before I asked her to dinner. On our 3rd date, I told her about my divorce, not dwelling on the betrayal but not hiding it either. "Thank you for trusting me with that," she said simply. "It says a lot about you that you are not bitter after what happened." "I am not bitter," I realized, somewhat surprised. "I am actually grateful." "Grateful?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. If I had not overheard her that night, I might have spent decades with someone who did not truly value me, I explained. As painful as it was, that moment of truth gave me the chance to build an authentic life. 1 year after the wine night revelation, I ran into Jessica, one of Amanda's former friends, at a grocery store. She looked uncomfortable but approached me anyway. "I just want you to know, not all of us thought it was funny," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. What Amanda was doing. Some of us tried to tell her it was wrong. But none of you told me, I pointed out. She had no response to that. I later heard through mutual acquaintances that Amanda had moved to Phoenix after losing her pharmaceutical sales job due to declining performance. Robert had returned to his wife, who apparently had been more forgiving than I was. Amanda's social media, once filled with smiling photos and enthusiastic posts about her perfect life, had gone quiet. The experience changed me fundamentally. I learned that trust should be verified, that red flags should never be ignored, and most importantly, that betrayal does not define your worth. How you respond to it does. I no longer view my divorce as a failure, but as a painful correction that ultimately set me on a more authentic path. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead to the best outcomes, if we have the courage to rebuild with intention and wisdom. Have you ever had to completely rebuild your life after betrayal? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming life's challenges. And if you know someone who might be ignoring red flags in their relationship, share this video with them. It might be the wake-up call they need. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, your worth is never determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to rise after falling. The strongest people are not those who never face betrayal, but those who rebuild with dignity after trust is broken.